closer, breathe in the light. Morning hum in the garden high. Every wing has a story to tell. Every root knows how to heal. We listen, we learn, we gather and grow. Where the bees and the wild things know.
Hello, bee enthusiasts. Welcome to the Attic Bee Podcast. I'm your host, Jody Schramm. Today we're diving into something that might sound intimidating, but I think you'll find it interesting, and that's honeybee biology. If you're like me, you might not have gotten as much as you wish you had from the biology classes you took in high school or college, but you understand there's a whole lot more to the subject than what we were taught in those introductory classes. So trust me when I say that understanding how bees actually work is like getting the instruction manual for a tiny, flying miracle machine. And if you're thinking about becoming a beekeeper, or you already are one, this knowledge isn't just interesting, it's essential. Let's start with the basics. A honeybee colony isn't just a bunch of identical bees living together. It's actually 3 very different types of bees, each with specialized jobs. We call these the castes, and understanding them is fundamental to everything else. So in this caste system, we first have the queen bee. There's almost always only one queen per hive, and she's the largest bee you'll see. She's essentially the mother of the entire colony. A healthy queen can lay up to 2,000 eggs per day during peak season. That's more than her own body weight in eggs. She can live for 2 to 5 years, which is pretty ancient compared to other bees. Then we have the worker bees. Workers are all female, and they make up the vast majority of the colony. We're talking like 20,000 to 60,000 workers in a healthy hive. Despite being female, worker bees can't reproduce under normal circumstances. Instead, they literally do everything else. Cleaning, feeding babies, caring for the queen, building comb, guarding the entrance, discarding the dead, and foraging for nectar and pollen. The worker bees' job titles change as they age, which we'll talk about in a minute. Finally, there are the drones. These are the male bees, and they are the largest in body, but smallest in brain function. We'll just let that sit there for a minute. The sole purpose of the drones is to mate with queens from other colonies. They don't collect nectar, they don't defend the hive, they can't even feed themselves properly. During the active season, you might have a few hundred to a few thousand drones. But here's the wild part. The workers kick them out to die because the colony can't afford to feed non-working mouths through the winter. Sorry guys, nature can be brutal. So why would beekeepers need to know this? Well, if you can't identify these 3 types of bees, you won't know if your hive is healthy. If there's no queen, your colony is in serious trouble. If you have too many drones, that might signal a problem. Being able to spot these differences at a glance is a big part of Beekeeping 101. Let's dig a little deeper into Her Majesty, the queen bee, because she really is remarkable. The queen starts life as a regular female egg, the same egg that could have become a worker bee. The difference, what made her become a queen instead of a worker, is in the food she received as she was developing. Regular larvae get worker jelly for a few days, then switch to a diet of pollen and honey. But a larva destined to become a queen, she gets fed royal jelly exclusively and in massive quantities. Royal jelly is this protein-rich secretion that comes from glands in a young worker bee's heads. Yes, their heads. And it's basically a superfood that triggers completely different development. This diet causes her to develop fully functioning ovaries, a larger, elongated body with that longer abdomen. She emerges from a special peanut-shaped cell called a queen cell after about 16 days of development. But she's not a queen yet. First, if there are other queen cells in the colony, she'll actually go around and kill her sister rivals before they emerge. You can sometimes hear her piping, which is a high-pitched sound she makes. If two queens emerge at the same time, they'll fight to the death. There can be only one. Then comes her mating flight. On a nice day, usually within a week of emerging, the virgin queen flies out to a special congregation area where drones from many colonies gather. She'll mate with 10 to 20 different drones during one or more flights. And here's the tragic part for the drones. When they mate, their reproductive organs are literally ripped out of their bodies, and they die. Again, sorry guys, I don't make the rules here. Anyway, the queen stores all that sperm, millions of individual sperm cells, in a special organ called the spermatheca. And that's her supply for her entire life. After mating, she returns to the hive and begins laying eggs. She'll lay fertilized eggs that become females, those workers or potential queens, and unfertilized eggs that become males, the drones. She can control which type by choosing whether to release sperm as each egg passes through her body. It's really amazing. So understanding the queen's life cycle helps beekeepers know when to expect what. If your queen is failing, you need to know the signs, which are reduced egg laying, spotty brood patterns, or excess drones. You also need to know that if you lose a queen, your colony can make a new one from a young worker larva, but only if they have eggs or very young larvae available. If you miss that window, your colony may be doomed. That's why checking for eggs is one of the most important things you do during a hive inspection. Now let's talk more about the workers, those unsung heroes of the hive. Worker bees live for about 4 to 6 weeks during the busy summer season. And ironically, they work themselves to death. During winter, when there's less work to do, they can live for several months. Their entire life follows a predictable pattern based on age. Basically, different jobs are executed at different ages. It generally follows this pattern. Days 1 to 3 are all about housekeeping. Newly emerged workers clean honeycomb cells, preparing them for the queen to lay new eggs. Days 3 through 11 are dedicated to nursing. Their brood food glands develop, and they become nurse bees, feeding larvae and tending to the queen. They'll check on each larva thousands of times, feeding them a mixture of royal jelly, pollen, and honey. Days 12 to 17 find the bees in middle age. They work on building comb, producing wax from special glands on their abdomen, then shaping it into those perfect hexagonal cells. They also work as food handlers, taking nectar from foragers and processing it into honey. And they help with temperature control by fanning their wings to cool the hive or vibrating their wing muscles to generate heat. In days 18 to 21, they become guard bees. Older workers station themselves at the hive entrance, checking every incoming bee to make sure it belongs and defending against intruders like wasps, mice, or beekeepers. Around day 21 and onward, they're foragers. This is the final career stage. These are your oldest workers, and they take on the most dangerous job, leaving the safety of the hive to collect nectar, pollen, water, and propolis. Most of them die while foraging, either from exhaustion, predators, or sometimes just getting lost. What's amazing is that this timeline is flexible. If the colony loses a lot of foragers, younger bees can accelerate their development. If there aren't enough nurse bees, foragers can actually reactivate their brood food glands and go back to nursing. The colony adapts based on its general needs. And this is good for beekeepers to know because when you open a hive, understanding what bees should be doing helps you assess colony health. Seeing lots of young bees on brood frames is a good sign. That means your queen is productive. Seeing bees building comb means they're thriving. Not seeing many foragers coming and going is a red flag. Also, knowing that foragers are older means you can understand why pesticide exposure or disease might affect your forager population first. Now, let's give those poor drones their moment, because while they might seem like lazy lumps, they do serve a crucial genetic purpose. Drones develop from unfertilized eggs. They're haploid, meaning they only have one set of chromosomes from their mother. This weird genetic setup means a drone has a mother and a grandfather, but no father. Kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? They take 24 days to develop, emerging larger than workers with huge eyes that meet at the top of their head. Those big eyes help them spot queens during mating flights. They can't sting because they don't have stingers. They can't collect pollen because they lack the anatomical equipment, those pollen baskets. They exist to mate. There's certainly a joke there, but I'll leave that alone. During the day, drones leave the hive and fly to those drone congregation areas, which are specific aerial locations, often a few hundred feet up, where drones from multiple colonies gather, hoping to find a virgin queen. If a drone successfully mates, he dies. If he doesn't mate, he returns to the hive, gets fed by workers, and tries again the next nice day. But come fall, when resources get scarce, the workers stop feeding drones and physically drag them out of the hive. You'll see this happening at your hive entrance, workers pulling drones out while they struggle. It seems terribly cruel, but the colony simply can't support non-workers through the winter. This is good to know because excessive drone production can indicate problems. If you see nothing but drone brood, your queen might be failing, or you might have laying workers. Laying workers are bees that start laying unfertilized eggs when there is no queen. And since they can't mate, all those eggs become drones. Some drone production is normal and healthy. You want them, but too much is actually a diagnostic sign. Also, as we deal with varroa mites, those invasive pests that have been wreaking havoc on honeybees, varroa mites prefer drone brood because they take longer to develop. So beekeepers who monitor drone cells can better track mite populations. Now let's take a look at the bee's body, because honeybees are like flying Swiss Army knives. Their bodies are engineered for efficiency. Starting with the head. Bees have two compound eyes made up of thousands of tiny lenses, giving them excellent motion detection and the ability to see ultraviolet light, which helps them find flowers. They also have three simple eyes on top of their head called ocelli, and these detect light intensity. Their antennae are also incredible, packed with receptors for smell and touch. They use these to navigate inside the dark hive, communicate through pheromones, and find flowers. The mouth parts are specialized too. That long tongue, called a proboscis, works like a tiny straw to suck up nectar. They can extend and retract it, and it's covered in tiny hairs that help lap up the liquid. Moving down to the thorax, this is where the legs and wings attach. Bees have 6 legs, and they're loaded with tools. The front legs have special notches for cleaning antennae. The middle and hind legs have pollen baskets, which are concave areas surrounded by stiff hairs where they pack pollen into little balls. When you watch a forager come home, you'll see these bright yellow or orange pollen baskets on her back legs. And bees have 4 wings, not just 2. And they can do something really cool. They hook together 2 wings on each side during flight using these tiny built-in hooks, essentially making 2 large wing surfaces with their 4 wings. And they can beat their wings about 200 times per second, producing that familiar buzz sound. Moving down to the abdomen, this contains most of the bee's internal organs. The digestive system, the honey stomach, which is a special storage tank for nectar, which is separate from their actual stomach, wax glands, and in workers and queens, the stinger. The stinger is actually a modified egg-laying organ, which is why only females can sting. Worker bees have barbed stingers that stick in mammalian skin, and that's what causes them to die after stinging. That stinger rips out along with part of their abdomen. Queens actually have smooth stingers and can sting multiple times, but they only use these on rival queens. Understanding honeybee anatomy also helps you recognize disease and parasites. Seeing something like deformed wings on your bees could mean your colony has deformed wing virus. Bees who are missing hair or have an odd appearance might signify tracheal mites or other issues. Knowing how bees collect and carry pollen helps you understand their foraging needs. And understanding the stinger mechanism helps you handle stings better. The stinger keeps pumping venom even after detaching, so scraping it off quickly actually minimizes the dose of venom you receive. To me, one of the most fascinating concepts about honeybees goes beyond their individual biologies. It's the idea that a colony isn't just a collective of, say, 40,000 individual bees. It's actually better understood as a single superorganism where individual bees are like cells in a single body. So think about this. No single bee decides what the colony does. The queen doesn't actually rule the colony, she just lays eggs. There's no central command. Instead, the colony makes collective decisions through something scientists call swarm intelligence. Thousands of simple interactions between individuals create complex, intelligent behavior at the colony level. When a colony needs to swarm and find a new home, scout bees fly out and explore. Each scout that finds a potential site comes back and dances with intensity proportional to the site's quality. Other scouts check it out and dance if they agree. Gradually, more and more bees dance for the best site until a consensus is reached, usually the objectively best option. The colony essentially votes and the majority rules, all without any bee understanding the full picture. Temperature regulation shows this too. Individual bees don't know the temperature of the entire hive, but they respond to local conditions. Too hot? Start fanning. Too cold? Vibrate those wing muscles. The collective result is a hive that maintains 93 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit in the brood nest within a degree or two, even when the outside temperatures swing wildly. You really can't manage a hive by thinking about individual bees. You have to think at the colony level. Is the superorganism healthy? Does it have enough resources? Is it growing, stable, or declining? Understanding the colony as a single entity with emergent properties helps you make better management decisions. You're not just keeping bees, you're managing a living, breathing, decision-making collective intelligence. That's a really big deal. So we've covered a lot of ground and just kind of skimmed the surface for all of it. The casts, life cycles, anatomy, and colony behavior. But let's bring it home. Why does all of this matter if you're a beekeeper? First, biology is your diagnostic tool. When something goes wrong, understanding normal bee biology helps you figure out the problem. Spotty brood pattern might indicate a failing queen or disease. Lots of drone means you better check for laying workers. Aggressive behavior could indicate a loss of queen pheromone. Without biological knowledge, you're kind of flying blind. Second, it helps you time your interventions. So if you need to split a hive, do it when the drones are flying so your new queen can mate. If you want to introduce a new queen, understanding pheromone dynamics tells you how to do it successfully. If you're trying to prevent swarming, you need to understand what triggers swarm preparation. It also makes you a better problem solver. Beekeeping books can't cover every situation you'll encounter, but if you understand how bees work, you can reason through novel problems. What would the bees naturally do? What do they need right now? How does this intervention affect their biology? All of this builds respect and wonder. The more you understand these creatures, the more amazing they become. You're not just harvesting honey, you're partnering with one of nature's most sophisticated societies. That knowledge makes the work more meaningful and makes you a more thoughtful, careful beekeeper. And finally, it helps you separate good advice from nonsense. Beekeeping is full of folklore, myths, and well-meaning, but sometimes wrong advice. Understanding bee biology gives you a filter. Does this claim make biological sense? Would bees really behave that way? Critical thinking based on solid biology keeps you from making expensive or harmful mistakes. We've only scratched the surface today. We didn't even get into detailed topics like bee development stages, the chemical composition of honey, how bees make wax, propolis collection, or seasonal colony dynamics. Each of these could be its own episode. In fact, I'm pretty sure they will be. But here's the beautiful thing. You don't need to know everything before you start beekeeping. We learn as we go. Every time you open a hive, you're observing biology in action. Every problem you solve teaches you something new, and every season brings different lessons. If you want my advice, start with the basics we covered today. Know your castes, understand the queen's role, recognize what workers should be doing at different stages. Then build from there. Read books, watch videos, join a bee club, find a mentor, and most importantly, spend time watching your bees. They truly are the best teachers. The world of honeybee biology is endlessly fascinating, constantly surprising, and deeply rewarding to study. Whether you're keeping bees in your backyard or just interested in these incredible insects, understanding their biology opens up a whole new appreciation for the natural world around us. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who might be curious about keeping bees. Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and remember, bees are always doing something for a reason. Your job is to understand what that reason is.
As the day settles back into green, let the quiet stay with you. Tend the small things